Hello guys, welcome back. I thought we were done with God of the Day, but I don't get to make any of the decisions around here. I will tell you that right now. So God of the Day is the Egyptian god Anubis. I was hesitant to do him because, shut up Loki, because anytime a god is popular in popular culture or video games, it's useless to try to tell people the truth. I found out the hard way when American Horror Story did a whole season of witches. I had so much trouble with that, I actually gave up writing on one platform because it was just the amount of nonsense I got was staggering. So I wanted to make sure to give Anubis a long cooldown period. As far as I know, Smite hasn't done any updates, so may the gods be with us. Um, decades ago, I'm hearing laughter back there. Decades ago, Bastet and Anubis were my matron and patron when I came into Wicca. And back then, we did not have the resources you have today. In Wicca, back then, it was very much, here's a single paragraph on your deity. Go work with him! Yay! And all I knew was that he was a god related to the dead and mummification and the funeral process and jackals. And then you go on to find about graveyards and the afterlife and how he was the original god of the underworld. But as Osiris rose in popularity, Osiris took the place that Anubis had. Anubis was actually, and I'm not hating on Osiris, all respect to our lord, but Anubis was actually the original god of the underworld. He seems to not have any cares. In fact, I seem to get the sense that not having to be the Lord is a blessing because no one can blame him for what's going on, and he has a lot more freedom. I get this idea of vacation time. I don't really think they care. And he was one of the gods that taught me because, remember, Egypt wasn't always a unified country. So every little kingdom, the tiny kingdoms, would have a distinct god or goddess that only had a set territory, and they would have completely different mythologies. If you think Norse mythology is complicated, going from place to place, gods could be brother and sister, husband and wife, father and daughter. It could change completely. So a lot of my research into Anubis was confusing, and he was the one that kind of taught me to just go with what the gods give us. Now he is a god associated with mummification, with jackals, with rot and decay, because, mummification, the main purpose is to have a presentable body to take into the afterlife, because the sincerely held Egyptian belief was that a good mummified body would last for all eternity and last into the other afterlife. And as we were preparing to do this, and we only prepared to do this full disclosure because Anubis has sent several beetles, and he has killed several things. In fact, he killed my lunch today, well, my late snack. We're getting off topic, but anyhow. No, that's not off topic. Someone had once asked me, how do gods show you they want to communicate? Well, I got a couple beetles, and I couldn't think of who it could be. And I had vaguely gotten Egyptian stuff, and I'm like, well, there are many Egyptian gods. And I opened one of those chicken to go things today, and the seal had popped, and that was some funky chicken. And yeah, it was all Anubis jumping up and down and going, okay, notice me, notice Anubis over here, Anubis wants your attention. So I had agreed he wouldn't get a video, but he agreed that he would, and guess who won? The deity won. And so back to Anubis, but that's kind of important because people will say, how do you know? Well, there aren't too many popular songs I would associate with him. There aren't too many popular things other than Smite, which kind of makes me sigh because he's not this evil deity. He didn't have too many ways to get my attention, but he knew I'd put the pieces together. But he's the god that taught me to accept the gods as they present themselves, which is important, especially with a god like Anubis, that a lot of his worship as god of the underworld we've lost. And he has never shown me an interest in being treated as such. Maybe he's done differently with you, but with me he's been like, meh, he doesn't really care. So why would we want to work with all due love and respect to Anubis, with an Egyptian god associated with jackals, embalming, death, decay, the afterlife? He's seen as a guardian of the dead, for one thing. He's seen the Greeks associate him with Hermes because they saw him as coming and taking the soul. He's also associated with judgment of the dead, judging the soul, and it would be weighed against the feather of Mot. And you basically had to be really terrible to suck at that test, but if you passed, you went into the afterlife, which was still a series of trials, and if you lost, they believed in disposing of people's souls in a way that basically you were erased from existence. So he's associated with all those things, so he can teach us about, dealing with grief, obviously, since he's the god of embalming and the god of, the underworld, and dealing with some of the things that are associated with death, going through the grieving process. Is horrible as this example is going to sound. When my father died, Anubis was one of the gods I went to. And no, I had not read American Gods before this time, but I was like, what do? I have no idea what to do, what's proper to spend and everything, because they're high pressuring you into spending all the top end stuff because that's how they make their money. And Anubis was the one to guide me and say, you can use this and this and this and this. You do not have to spend as much money as if you were bearing the pharaoh. So he can be very practical and be very kind to people. He's good to know in the grieving process. He's good to know for, actually for meditation. He's really good about that. Sometimes he'll just kind of, meditation-wise, kind of be there with you quietly and spend the time with you, and he doesn't force anything on you. He's not a big god to force things. That he actually kind of pushed me in the right direction for a video honestly surprises me, because that's usually not Anubis's way. He's usually very laid back. We don't see each other honestly that often, but I think he still remembers when we worked together when I was younger, and he's still fond and comes in and checks on me. He's also good to work with if you're going through spirituality issues. As I've been trying to get everybody settled back in, it's caused a lot of stress, as you can imagine, and it's kind of like, as I've been working on the God of the Day series, and I'm not giving myself a pat on the back, I swear, it feels, sometimes like, oh, this god just came in because they wanted their video, they got their video, now I'll never see them again. And it's not so, it's just that they're coming in and they're relaxing, and they don't have to be in my lap. There's only two that do that. We know which two those are. So, I'm kidding. Well, now I'm back here. So he's been helping me to get everyone back in, and his statue is still down here in the living room on their altar, and he actually guards the front door. He gives me an indication, though you are free to disagree, that I have never seen this part of the map before. Huh. That he will, I just got the game today, full disclosure, that he will guard the house just as he guards the dead. So that is the indication he gave to me, and how appropriate that I found this as I'm talking about Anubis. And, so he will guard the household, and he's helping settle the household, and he is associated with justice. So you can certainly work with him in justice, and he's very sweet and kind. Oh, look at this, guys. So he's very, he's very sweet and kind, and he's very nice to work with as towards, justice. If you're trying to work towards, some kind of legal matter, he would be a good one to work with. Obviously, if you love jackals, there's the jackals with like black ears and stuff like that. That's one that people think that it was uncanny, because I was looking up jackals to see if this really was Anubis, and somebody mentioned Anubis, and it was a worshiper of Anubis, and I'm like, okay, it's time for me to get my move on, because Anubis has done everything but show up in person and do a tap dance. And he would do it too. He has a great sense of humor about things. What is this? Oh, is that a movie reference? Is it? Because if it is, I really approve. Oh, neat. Look at this. So we've come to the oasis, and that's the thing that brings up his black coloring. Black for decay and death, of course, but black for a color of the now. It's one of the colors associated with the Nile because of the fertility of the soil. Once the Nile would flood and then it would recede, you would have this beautiful floodplain, and you would have all this beautiful flooding. I can't believe I only paid 99 cents for this thing. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not trying to shut up Dev, but look at this. And, so they say that's one reason. They say another reason is because, as I said, it's associated with decay, but can also be associated with the Nile, and associated. I always get a night association. I don't know why. Maybe because jackals go about in the day, yeah, but sometimes in the night, sometimes in the in-between times. And, I didn't know until I did like 20 seconds of research, but jackals are not a very loved animal. I had no idea. I thought wolves and foxes got all the not being loved, and maybe dingoes. Jackals as well. Jackals get the "we don't love you, we don't want you here, you stinky jackal." So the first thing I saw on jackals, and this does tie back to Anubis, was this terrible thing of them deciding they were going to get rid of all the jackals. And I could not watch that. And this isn't a place to debate things, but I'm like, well, that's kind of obviously Anubis jumping up and down and saying, see, because a lot of people won't work with Anubis either because they buy into that Hollywood or video game idea of him being this evil deity. And no Egyptian deity is actually what we would call evil. There are ones that balance each other out, like you could think of Osiris and Set balancing each other out, but neither one is actually what we would call evil. Some are a bit harsher to work with, all due respect to the gods, but it does not make them evil. That is actually awesome. So, he is very rewarding to work with, and I think he just wanted his just due, and he wanted me to remind people that he's not this evil deity. He's actually really sweet and kind and nurturing, and he's always got time to listen to you and spend time with you. And you could certainly work magic with him, but it's not one of those things that... Hold on 1 second, guys. Alright, guys, I might have to be doing some fancy putting together of videos. Oh, dear Lord. But I think Anubis just wanted me to remind you guys that he is not this big, evil, scary god. He's actually very kind, sweet, and loving, and he'll take the time to listen to you. If the gods hear my prayers, that will have gone through and been a complete recording. I am sorry. Halfway through the recording, my eyes just started to burn like crazy, and I was trying to soldier on for Anubis' sake, but if the gods are merciful, that recorded. So if you guys like what you see, like, comment, subscribe, but really give Anubis a try. He's very sweet, he's very warm. May he have blessed the recording so that it worked, and I will see you guys later. Bye bye.